Good morning, Rebels, and welcome back to my life. So yesterday I gave you my tearful farewell to the Hobbit films and Middle-earth in general, but let's get happier and talk about the movie itself. I mean, obviously I'm a huge Tolkien nerd, so it's difficult for me to judge any of the Lord of the Rings or Hobbit films objectively, but I'm gonna give it my best shot. First of all, is the final movie good? Yes, it's very good. Is it perfect? No. And let's talk about why. First of all, we gotta talk about the battle. You know, the battle that's in the title of the movie, the Battle of the Five Armies. Was it awesome? Yes. Were there problems? Yeah. Beginning at the beginning, the battle sort of started haphazardly. There's no build-up like in the Battle of Helm's Deep, or the Battle of the Pelennor Fields, or even the Battle of the Moran, and it just sort of happens. In the book, the Battle of the Five Armies is this intense, epic build-up where the elves, men, and dwarves like almost start fighting, and then Gandalf steps in the middle and he's like, "You're all being a bunch of idiots," and then the goblins and the wargs come swarming over the hills, and it's all like, oh! And while that technically happened in the film, the lead-up, the build-up was just sort of, yeah. I was like, oh, I guess they're fighting now, huh? You know, there isn't that moment before everything starts where the armies are facing off and two epic generals look at each other across a field, and you're just sitting there going, oh, spit, things are about to go down. There were also a couple of logistical issues where I didn't understand how armies on the battlefield could actually move the way that they did. Like, without spoilers, there's a whole part where the goblin army is facing off against the human army, and then the goblins turn around to go for a specific objective, and the humans chase after them. And then a couple minutes later, and some fancy editing tricks, and the humans are in the objective, defending it from the goblins. And I'm just like, what? Kind of physically impossible is what I'm saying. That being said, the fighting is amazing, epic, and awesome. Two words that won't be a spoiler, but will be awesome for anybody who's seen it. Elf jump. Dude, that elf jump, though. Billy Connolly plays a big role in the battle. He appears in the film as Thorin's cousin Dane, and he's really awesome. Although I felt his role was actually a little bit downplayed from how awesome it could have been. That's one thing I would have actually been fine with them spending a little more time on if they had shaved time somewhere else. Which brings us to the subject of bloat. Now, a lot of people have said that the Hobbit films are kind of bloated with all these extra scenes and characters that don't appear in the book. But of course we know that almost all of the extra scenes and characters are from Tolkien's other writings and were things that were actually occurring during the time of The Hobbit, so their inclusion makes sense. Like the whole thing with the White Council going and driving the Necromancer out of Dol Guldur in Mirkwood. Like, not putting that in the film would be a huge omission because that's what Gandalf was doing when he vanished in the book, The Hobbit. But with that being said, there are times when the films seem to run unnecessarily long or spend a lot of time on something that we don't necessarily care that much about. And while that was the case in the third film, I found it to be less pronounced than in the first two films. This is probably because so much character and story development happened in the first two films that the third one was really just a lot of wrapping stuff up. There wasn't time to engage in a lot of frivolous side quests, so to speak. How about the CG aspect in the filmmaking in general? Well, the Hobbit films are big green screen extravaganzas with much less practical effects and practical sets than, for example, the Lord of the Rings movies. And unfortunately, the third one is no exception. It still looks like it's about 80% green screen or with heavy green screen elements, and I did find that distracting while viewing, even though I didn't see it in high frame rate, which I dislike and which seems to exacerbate that problem immensely. So now we have to talk about the film compared to the book, but that's gonna have to wait for part 2. Yes, I'm sorry, Rebels, this review has to come in 2 parts. I can't review the entire film in one 4-minute video. So stay tuned for the review part 2. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss that part 2 video. Check out my Patreon link in the video description below for the best way to get all of my books, and I will see you tomorrow. Maybe. Bye!